This is estate planning attorney Jason Lindamood, and today I'd like to talk about a document that we should all have as part of our estate planning documents, essentially part of our portfolio of what makes up our estate plan. And that document's called a HIPAA Authorization. We've probably heard of it. HIPAA stands for Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. And as you know, these are the privacy laws that we often hear about that are in place to protect our sensitive, pertinent patient health information from being disclosed without the patient's consent, without our consent, or without the patient's knowledge. And a HIPAA authorization is a document that is typically going to go hand in hand with a medical power of attorney. And the medical power of attorney allows you to appoint someone else to stand in your shoes and make medical decisions on your behalf if you are unable to make them for yourself. And the HIPAA authorization allows a person, in many cases, and as a practical matter, it's probably going to be the same person that you and I have designated as our agent for a medical power of attorney, to retrieve your medical records from one medical provider and facilitate getting those records to your current medical provider. So your current provider will have any and all information necessary to diagnose and treat whatever it is that needs to be treated on your behalf. So it helps essentially cut through any red tape that may prevent our medical records from getting where they need to be. In other words, we are at medical provider A. I'm in Houston, Texas. So let's say for you Houstonians, we know St. Luke's Hospital. Maybe I'm at St. Luke's Hospital, but maybe my family doctor or out in Katy, or maybe Methodist Hospital has some records that are pertinent. And I need to get them from Methodist to St. Luke's, or wherever you're watching this from. Think about having your medical records go from your family doctor to a hospital that you've never been to before. And the HIPAA authorization allows the left hand to know what the right hand's doing with much more fluidity than if we didn't have this document at all. And now all of a sudden the privacy flags start to fly, and one provider is going to be a lot more hesitant to release those medical records unless we have certain signatures from different people than they would if they felt like they were relieved or absolved of any legal liability that may come down the pike towards them. So that's what the HIPAA authorization serves to do. A couple of things to be aware of as you're getting your HIPAA authorization drafted. I've noticed that some practitioners that do what I do for a living, that some attorneys like to combine the medical power of attorney with the HIPAA authorization as one single document. And I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of that consolidation. I prefer to draft each of those as standalone documents. Now, sometimes we may only need one of these. We may either need the HIPAA or we need the medical power of attorney, the medical POA. And we may only need one without the other, depending on the situation. And going back to the concept of privacy that we talked about a little bit earlier, the whole thing that HIPAA is supposed to really be there to protect, when those HIPAA laws went into effect back in 1995, 1996-ish. So it's been a while. It's been about 25 years. Those privacy laws are important. I'm a big believer in privacy, extremely important. But there may be times when you may not want all of the information, going back again to the whole concept of privacy, you may not want all of your information contained in your medical power of attorney floating around out there or being scanned into the computer systems of medical providers that your agent is simply needing the medical records from using your HIPAA authorization. So picture this scenario. You went to a lawyer, you have a medical power of attorney, you have a HIPAA authorization, it's all consolidated into one document. Now you go, and your agent needs to use this document to go get your HIPAA records from one provider to the other, as we mentioned earlier. The reason I like standalone documents is I don't necessarily think that the medical provider that we're looking to get medical records from that those folks necessarily need to know exactly what's in our medical power of attorney, because there can be some sensitive information in there as to what our wishes are or as to what our wishes aren't. So, again, I like privacy as a matter of course. And I think the better course of action is to have, as simplistic as it sounds, is to have two separate standalone documents. Have your medical POA over here with your agents listed. Have your HIPAA authorization over here, again, with your agents listed. I just think it's a better course of action. Also, it's always good to not only have your primary agent listed, to not only have one person, but to also have a secondary agent. And let's take it a step further, even a tertiary agent, just in case your primary agent is out of the country or some other type of circumstance that comes into play that is always inevitably unforeseen but rears its ugly head at the worst possible time. In other words, it's always wise to have a backup. And even then, I think it's always wise to have a backup to the backup. And that way, our bases are covered in the event that, again, something unforeseen happens. And right now, I'm talking about your HIPAA authorization specifically, but that concept really goes for any and all of your estate planning documents. Your medical power of attorney, your financial durable power of attorney, all of them. So again, you want to have your primary agent, you want to have your backup, and then a backup to the backup. I know that's not always ideal depending on our familial situation, because every family has its own unique set of dynamics. I'm totally aware of that. And it may take some thought to determine who our people will be. But it's time well spent in case it's ever needed. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. If you are in a position to share this video with someone that you feel may get something out of it, and you thought this video was helpful to you, please feel free to share it. I'd appreciate that. Also, if you're somewhere where you can either hit a like button or leave a comment, those are always tremendously appreciated as well. Thank you for watching, and talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.